everybody, Tony D with a hot take about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is losing his mind, in my opinion. Either that or he is purposely throwing the election. I think at this point, that's the only two conclusions you can come to if you see the latest video. The latest video is Joe Biden yelling at a CBS reporter who asked him, do you think you should take a cognitive ability test? Which is a perfectly pertinent question under the circumstances. His age, Trump already took one, and he said nothing but gaffes for months, years even, really. Well, Biden somehow is not expecting the question, which is scary in and of itself, because it's very likely he got all the questions ahead of time. Joe, they're going to ask you about your cognitive abilities, so you're going to have to answer that, and blah, blah, blah. And they probably prepped him for it. He gets his back up, angry, like this is an outrageous question, like no one has asked it. Trump already took the damn test, so you can't get that angry. And worse than that, he asked the reporter, well, what if you were accused of taking cocaine and wanted to test you to see if you were a junkie? What? That's hard. First off, that's not even in the ballpark of the same thing. Okay, it's like, way out there. Second, use the word junkie like it's 1975. Like that is not the term anymore. It's a very dated term. Drug user, drug addict. Nobody says junkie anymore. Like they haven't said that. It's Serpico. They said, "Hey, you junkie," but not in modern day. So Joe has just lost it, in my view. I think his cognitive decline is so great that he cannot debate Trump. He's incapable of debating Trump. It's not that he's going to lose, although he would just get curb stomped. He is going to fall to pieces to the point where I think Trump will actually have to say something in the middle of the debate like, are you okay, Joe? Because that's how bad he is now. He's angry and he's flummoxed. He doesn't quite get where he is or what he's doing. He's made so many mistakes. Go to Biden gaffes on Twitter and you can see all his latest mistakes. And they are just legendary. And there's so many of them. Every other week there's another one. And they're major, major gaffes. They're not small gaffes. They're major gaffes. I mean, when you accuse a popular black radio host, essentially imply that he's not black enough, with his weird comment like, you ain't voting for Biden, you ain't black, or ain't black enough. Like, that was the worst one. I think that was even worse than this one in terms of optics. But this one, I mean, if you watch it and just Google it, I don't have time to put the link. I'm very busy. You'll find it. You can see he's just not there. Biden is not there, in my view. I mean, you watch the tape and judge for yourself. It is incomprehensible that this guy has been put up as a candidate for president. The Democrats at this point would be better with anybody else. He should bow out. He should pick a VP and immediately bow out, which is what I suspect is going to happen at this point, because I think they'll be forced to do it at this point. Which leads me to my other conclusion, which is possible that Biden's just doing this to throw the whole thing. Like, he wants to make sure that by the time he's nominated and they say, okay, he can't be president, people go, oh, thank God. Thank God. Thank God he's not going to be running. And then whoever they prop up in his place, which would be totally not democratic, by the way, people will just be relieved that they're in his place rather than him. I think I am almost on board with the H.A. Goodman train that is going to be Hillary Clinton. I mean, why not? Because if it's Hillary and then Biden bows out, Hillary would step up to president, and then she could appoint a woman of color to be vice president. and it'd be a double ticket of wokeness. I still think Hillary would lose. I think people will be outraged to some extent that this could happen. I think a lot of women will be like, yeah. But I think there will be a lot of more principled women who will be like, oh no, this is not the way what we wanted. This is not the way we wanted to get our first female president. But either way, I think the Democrats lose, as they should. This has been an S show since the beginning. And at some level, I feel sorry for Joe Biden because he never should have ran. He could have just retired after being VP, stepped out of the limelight, and he probably would have had an okay life and not been scrutinized. Certainly Hunter would have been in much better shape. They wouldn't have been looking at him that closely. You know, every bad decision Biden has made, not just in this election, but all previous elections, has come back to haunt him. He's an old man. I mean, he's almost 80 years old. And now he's starting to look it. You know, some guys, like Trump, God, you just wonder, where the hell does he get the energy? Well, the way he eats, and you know, granted he's got the spray tan and whatever he's doing with his hair, but still, he still has an energy. There's still life in those eyes. He's still answering questions. He's still sharp. Biden's not sharp. There's problems in those eyes. He's not focused. He forgets things, and when he forgets things, he doesn't come back from them easily. Like if I mess up, normally I come back if I realize what I said. Sometimes I don't. Like the other day I said I was an anthropology major. I wasn't. I had an anthropology minor. But I didn't realize what I said, and I just kept moving on. Biden does that, and the thing is, his whole deal is speaking. His whole deal is what he says. He's been giving speeches for like 50 years. He can't afford this. Not in a presidential campaign. He can't afford to make the kinds of mistakes he's making and not be like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not what I meant. What I meant to say was blah, blah, blah. He can't make that jump anymore. There's this one video of him where he just kind of, you know, he's just kind of like, what am I doing? Like that. And it's sad. It's sad to see that this guy is being pushed. There's no way he could campaign at his age, and there's no way he could be president at his age. You know, imagine something happens. He gets elected president, and something happens where he's got to manage a crisis for the next 2 weeks and basically has to stay up very late day after day and is juggling a bunch of things. I can't imagine him even be able to handle it all. He'd have to pass it off to his advisors and his VP, not because he's delegating responsibility, but because he'd be physically incapable of meeting everybody and making all the decisions. He'd have to literally sit in bed and just read up on everything while everybody else did the actual legwork. I mean, that's where we're headed with him. He might be in a wheelchair, for God's sakes, by the time he gets up there. And maybe he should be, you know, a guy that old. I don't know. And, you know, again, the tactics of the Democratic Party itself has become so ruthless and so wrong and so tied into scams and lies, just one after another. It's time to just set them aside and say, listen, you thought you got defeated in 2016. No. Here's a real defeat in 2020. And then you know what they're going to say. They're going to blame poor Biden. They're going to say, well, obviously we lost. It's because, you know, Joe Biden's too old. He makes a bunch of gaffes. Of course we lost. Of course we did. But we had no choice. It's totally inaccurate. They had tons of choices. They had some good choices. I mean, Buttigieg, he'd be okay. Even Amy Klobuchar would be workable. Anybody who was at least young enough to withstand the campaign trail and could, retort on Trump's tweets once in a while would have been great. But Biden can't do that. No. Biden's Twitter feed is clearly being run by somebody, in my view. That ain't him. No way that's him. They're long answers, first off, very long. There's no mistakes in these answers. They feel written. They feel like they've been written out and approved, and these are the tweets I'm going to send today. Yes, change this word and that word. That's what they feel like. They feel like they've been focus grouped. So there's no authenticity to Biden anymore. He's a mummy muppet who's just being danced around so the DNC could have a shot, I guess. Or maybe it's going to be Hillary Clinton. H.A. Goodman's been calling it for a long time. In 2020, who knows?